Welcome to the Crystal Ball Hour here on KUHS Denver, the stream. Thank you so much for joining me today. And no, you're not imagining things. This is Dr. Lisa from the Dr. Lisa Show. And this is my other show that I so love doing. And remember, you can catch me live right now on the Facebook site for KUHS Denver or on the Dr. Lisa Show Facebook site. And you can listen live. Go to kuhsdenver.com and click on Listen. And yes, if you're listening, I will be doing live readings today. I'll explain all about how that works, but we're adding a little something today for you. And that is that if you can message me in the Facebook site. I'm going to work hard at multitasking here. And I have the 3 Facebook sites up. So with any luck, I'm going to be able to see anything that you post in the Facebook site. But for those of you who are listening on the radio, we really want to include you. So guess what? We're trying something new. You can text me at 720-386-0513. Again, that was 720-386-0513. And let me just tell you how this works. So if you're new, if you just excitedly joined my show, which you should, this is a show where I came out as a channeler. So I'm not doing astrology. It takes too long to run a chart on a radio show. What I do have with me are 4 of my crystal balls. And I have to tell you, since I started this show, I'm so tempted to get another one, but I don't want these to get jealous. I have my clear one, which is leaded crystal, my black one, which is one of my favorites, which is also leaded crystal, an amethyst one, which is mineral, which they're very difficult. It's very difficult to cut a mineral crystal ball because it wants to break along the fracture lines of the mineral itself. And then I have a small one, my traveling one, that is a blue agate. I bring them all with me because I'm never sure which one is going to speak to me. So how does this work? Well, in order to do a reading, I have to have permission from you. And there are some things I do not do. So if you're going to ask me about your health, my first answer is going to be talk to your medical care practitioner. Right? That's always going to be my first answer. I cannot answer questions about the election, and I cannot answer questions about the stock market. Trust me, if I could do the stock market, I would. There are some amazing astrologers who are very, very into that and have had amazing success, and you can take a look at that, but that's not what I do. So these are more personal questions. What's my next step in life? How am I doing? Where's love? Most people do ask about love and money. And today might be a good day to ask about love or just where you are in your life, because I want to talk about soulmates. So before I get started with that, let me tell you again, for those of you who are new, how I learned to read a crystal ball. Because I think what happens is many people are not sure that's what I'm doing in here. And honestly, there's no way I could be, like Googling you and finding answers, right? I'm doing these things live. And crystal ball reading is something a bit unique, I will admit. I know there's crystal ball readers out there, and in fact, if you are out there, I would love it, just really, really love it, if you'd let me know, and let me know how you learned. I learned, and there is an old Jewish legend, and if you've heard this before, I'll try to make it brief. But there's an old Jewish legend about the power that women had to look through a wine glass at the flame on a Shabbat candle or a holiday table at the candles and read the future for their daughters especially. And that is how I learned to do this. It's how I've taught people to do this. To take a crystal, well, it has to be clear. It doesn't have to be crystal, but it has to be a goblet you can see through. To fill it with red fluid. You could probably use purple grape juice if that's your preference. And look at the candle and let it dance and let your mind wander. People have asked me if I actually see images. And crystal ball reading is interesting because what happens is it opens all your senses. So sometimes I get a sense of something. Sometimes I do see something. I might see it in my mind's eye and not exactly in the crystal ball. Sometimes I hear something. Sometimes when I'm channeling, when it's a spirit guide coming through, they will push on me or shove on me, and I'll feel them in my body. Reading like this is a very sensual, and get the word, I did not say sexual, sensual experience for me, meaning it engages me at a deep sensual level that I love. For those of you who've been listening to me for a while, you're probably not surprised when I talk about all the Aquarius in my chart, that I need a little help sometimes moving into sensuality. I don't have any earth in my chart, and I have very little, I have a bit of water. But it's earth that I think does the sensuality, and I don't have any. So I had to work at it a little bit more. That's how this works. If you're interested in a reading, again, today, go to the Facebook site. You can go to the Dr. Elisa Show on Facebook. You can go to KUHS Radio TV Denver Facebook site. And I think you can also go to Henry Archuleta Facebook site. And I'm looking at them right now. They are all up and running. So what happens is I'll say your first name and would also read part of the question. Technical difficulties, hold on. Okay. I had to adjust the sound, so I hope you caught all that. Okay, where was I? Oh, I was back here with you. So, as you can tell, like I said, a very sensual experience for me. What else do I want to talk about today? And, you know, I know it's a little scary, isn't it? It's just a little scary to ask for a free reading. And you also can find me on my webpage. I want to make that very clear. My webpage has a blog that I just posted a blog today, by the way. You can go to elisarobin.com. If you sign up for my website, you will get a free link to a short audio about dealing with life as an empath. Empath, think about it as a highly sensitive person, and it's something that's actually recognized by psychologists and psychiatrists nowadays. There's nothing wrong with you. You might just be picking up energy from the world around you. That's free if you sign up for the site. And then if you sign up, you will get my regular blogs. And I have to tell you, I sent out a blog today about my own battle between running away to freedom and embracing the life that I want to manifest. And I've had more amazing responses and feedback from women who've read it and said they have the same battle. I bet a number of men do too. So I'd love it if you would go to my website, elisarobin.com, read my blog, send me a message. I'm an author, I'm a writer, I love having feedback. Tell me what you think. You'll also see all the packages I have and the ways that I can do readings for you, pulling your chart, which also means channeling. So you get both of those. You get the astrology and you get the channeling. So that's my commercial. And I just want to do this commercial also. My first novel is available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. It is called The Way of the Well. And for those of you who listen, you know I just finished my second novel. I'm in the editing stage of it. And I thought I'd read you a little piece from this novel today. It is a spiritual romance. And it's some parts of it, like Jimmy Buffett says, are mostly true stories. But I wanted to read you something because I've had a number of clients who've come to me lately fearful and worried and wondering how they move forward in their spiritual life. And there's a section in the book towards the end where Rachel and Leah, the two protagonists, have made peace with each other. And they're trying to get to Miriam's well, which is a whole other Jewish legend, but that's where they're trying to get. And they have gotten to this field of sharp volcanic glass, and they can't move forward because they keep getting cut. And their mentor, their guide, has told them, this old Jewish woman has told them they have to go there naked. And they're like, okay, we don't know what that means. And then they suddenly get it. And I want to read this to you because I think it's a powerful message of what we can do right now in our lives. They say, well, what if Naomi didn't mean physically naked? What if she meant spiritually naked, emotionally naked, without assumptions and illusions? Deep in the pit of my being, I knew that I was right, but I did not know what to do about it. Without assumptions and illusions, Leah whispered the words to herself as she stared at the distant light. The assumption that we will fail, the illusion that we can. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it, her eyes half closed. She squeezed my hand that still clasped hers, swaying slightly to some elusive ancient rhythm. The assumption that life is about lessons, the illusion that we must work hard to learn. The assumption that life is a battle, I whispered to the silence surrounding us, the illusion that warriors win. The assumption that everyone else is better than me, the illusion that I am not good enough. The assumption that I'm supposed to be perfect, the illusion that I'm not. The assumption that mistakes are bad, the illusion that I am a bad mistake. I want you to hold those words, because so much of what we're feeling right now are those kind of fears. The road on our spiritual journey is to rid ourselves of those assumptions and those illusions. And if you want to know how they got there and what happens after that, you got to get the book, right? The Way of the Well on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I wrote that book, and I wrote the one I just finished, almost channeling. I don't even know where those words came from, which is that gift I have, that I've had since I was a child, that again, I've come out here. What I hope for today is I'm going to talk about soulmates, reincarnation, all that kind of thing. What I hope is that my voice comforts you, maybe hypnotizes you. That would be okay too. What I hope is that you feel inspired in some way after this show to let go of your assumptions and your illusions, the ones that trap you, the ones that have you walking through the world in fear. And trust me, I know it's a scary time. I know. Wear your mask, wash your hands, do all those things. Yes. Yes. But those are the surface, the physical fears. It's those deeper fears that keep us from living our true life. Those are the ones that can stop us. And everything I just read to you, if you're wondering, is in alignment with the Kabbalah and several mystical traditions. We come here as a pure soul. We come here then to live our light, to do our tikkun, to do our healing, to show our light to ourselves and to the world. And I'm just going to, if you're watching, you're going to notice I'm going to grab for water occasionally because it's very dry in Colorado. So let's talk about soulmates as I check the websites here. Again, if you have a question, you can post it in one of the Facebook sites. I'm trying to monitor all of them as we speak. Or you can text me at 720-386-0513. That's something new we've added, and we'll be doing it every time I have the Crystal Ball Hour. So you can actually get to me without going on your computer. Okay, so what do we want to talk about today? I want to talk about this search for our soulmate. Oh my. And it just beeped at me, and ooh, okay. So if you text me, and I just have a number, oh, what's the future hold for Sagittariuses? Can you, if you just texted me, could you put your first name in? Because that's actually how I connect with you. And so if you just ask me this question, can you also just come back and give me your first name so I can do a reading for you? Because if I'm going to talk about all Sagittarians, that's pretty broad, right? Jennifer the Sagittarius. Okay, Jennifer. So let me connect. Oh my gosh, you have some guides who came through really, really quickly. They're swirling and dancing, and I'm wondering if your life is swirling and dancing right now. Dancing would be good, swirling can be bad, or at least confusing. They're talking about you slowing down a little because there are messages coming through to you that you're not hearing, that you're not quite paying attention to. There are several guides around, well, they're around me right now, but they're around you, and I do believe you have some that are elders from your life. So some that you knew that actually were on this planet, and then just guides that are just there for you. And it feels like they are trying to communicate with you about a direction to go and directions to go. They're not actually calling you stubborn, but they are suggesting that being open to a choice that is not what you would normally choose would be a good thing right now. Being open to an opportunity that you might have previously rejected. And that if you can do that, you're going to see some new opportunities in your life. They're also pushing me forward from behind, and they're asking me something about a cat. So if there's a cat you have that you're very attached to, that's simply a way that they're making contact and saying, we know, we hope you can see us. Oh, and then there's a piece of jewelry they're talking about. So I don't know if that's a bracelet or a ring that has come from one of these guides or connected to one of these guides who is somebody from your lineage. And again, they're trying to get your attention. So for Sag, what I would say right now is slow down. Look around, see what your gifts are, see where your blessings are, and open yourself to other opportunities that you may not have considered in the past. Because sometimes taking a step back and moving in another direction takes us further in the long run. Let me know if that resonates with you, Jennifer. A thumbs up or a smiley face or something like that would be grand. Thank you for asking a question. And let me just check the Facebook site and see if any of you are active out there. Not yet. Okay. So let me know, Jennifer, if that resonated with you. Soulmates. I want to talk about soulmates. Oh, smiley face. I did good. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, soulmates. That's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about soulmates because so many of my clients seem to be looking for their soulmate. And when they ask questions about love, that's what they want to know. Is this the one, the person? And I have to tell you, while I do believe in soulmates, I believe in them probably slightly different than the modern romantic notion of soulmates. I absolutely believe in them, but a soulmate is not necessarily somebody you marry. Let me just come with that. The search for soulmates, I have found for some people, is actually a bit dangerous. Ooh, but before I go further with that, because this show really is about readings, and I can read for a full hour if that's what you want me to do. So, Delea, if you feel like you know a soulmate, but they do not seem to recognize it, do you pursue? That's a great question. Thank you. Thank you. We'll get back to soulmates. So there are many kinds of soulmates. There are soulmates that are friends. I'm sure one of my best friends is my soulmate, and that's where we are. And she has come into my life for me to learn certain lessons, and I think for us to heal and resolve karma together. She's part of my soul group, the soul group that perhaps I travel with, or perhaps somebody I bumped into in a past life and we have unresolved issues. Our charts are knit together so tightly that it's fascinating. And we have a connection, but it's a friendship connection. And we dance in it. Sometimes we're closer together, sometimes we're further apart, even though I know we have deep feelings for each other. So you can have that kind of a soulmate. You can have a soulmate who appears for a while and disappears again. And remember, and in fact, this is very true of what people call twin flames. You can meet somebody and know that I've been with this person. We are slivers of the same soul. But they're in a different spiritual reality than you are right now, and that's so common in a twin flame. Imagine you're born in California and they're born in Nigeria, but somehow you connect across time and you touch in some way, but you're not meant to be together. So we added the romance of, I found my twin flame. Why doesn't it work? Because you're in different places in your life. There are different things happening. You're in different spiritual levels, perhaps. And so you touch in some way to remind each other that you're not alone. And then often split apart. I've seen that more and more times. People who show up and say, I know this person's my twin flame. Why aren't we together? It's because you'll burn each other out. Can't do it. That's not what a twin flame is for. A soulmate, Delia, can be somebody that you know you have a connection, but it's a friendship soulmate, or it's a teacher soulmate. Or, you can also have a soulmate and that person does not want to deal with that this life. We come here with tasks to fill, agendas, things that our soul is craving, but we have free choice when we get here, free will. And it's quite possible, because of that free will, we may choose out. I am pretty sure that I met one of my soulmates quite a while ago. I chose out. Then we came back together, and he chose out. So maybe we were soulmates to give each other inspiration at a certain time. And I have no regrets, because he is in the world, but it's not for me to be with. So Delia, I hope that answers that question. Sometimes we're not supposed to push. Sometimes we're supposed to allow. Sometimes we're supposed to seduce to us. And someone who doesn't want to be with us for whatever reason, and this is actually just very practical psychological suggestion, especially for women. Oh, guys too. Don't chase. If that person doesn't want you, listen. Just listen. If they're slow, okay. If it's moving slow, that's fine. But if your heart craves someone and they don't want anything to do with you, maybe step back and pay attention. I don't want anyone to choose heartbreak, though many of us do, because it's part of what our soul lesson is, to choose that and to heal that. And in fact, that's a lot of what I work with people on, is that healing of that broken heart. Because it is in those cracks that we fill, those breaks, that our great beauty arises, our great strength arises. So I'm going to grab a drink of water here. This is thirsty work. And I'm going to remind you that you're listening to the Crystal Ball Hour on KUHS Denver. I am Elisa. Yes, I'm an astrologer. Yes, I'm a channeler. And I have discovered this deep love of channeling again in my life. If you're on Facebook, on the Dr. Elisa Show, on KUHS Denver, you can ask me a question. These are free crystal ball readings, and so I can't do charts while I'm here, so you don't ask me about your astrology. Ask about your chart. Ask me a question about you. And if you're listening on the radio, you can text. Don't call. You can text 720-382-5500. 720-386-0513. Did you get that? 720-386-0513. You can text me. And I'm hoping that that becomes a thing on this show, right? So that I do a little less specific talking and a little more reading. So thank you to Leah for asking the question. Let me know if that answered it for you, if you have another question. And let's go back to soulmates. So why do we want a soulmate? I have to tell you, there's amazing stories about soulmates, right? Through time, through history, we find them. There is a Jewish notion that after God finished creating the world, she became a matchmaker, because it's hard to do. It's a very hard job. And that is, sort of God's favorite thing to do, is matchmake. And there is a thought that perhaps there is a soulmate for everyone, and there is, but I have to say, buried in that Kabbalah tradition, there isn't just one. There isn't just one. There are many. And you meet the one. There's a saying that nobody stands under the huppah, meaning nobody marries the wrong person. But that may have been for a while. It may not work out the way it was supposed to in your head, but it worked out the way that it needed to for your soul, for your karma to resolve. And that's fine. And we know people who then fall in love again later. And that's lovely. People who are widow and widowers who find love again. People who are divorced and find love again. It isn't that the first person was the wrong person, it was a lesson person. What I have found is when my clients want their soulmate, what they're really saying to me is, please tell me that I'm not making a mistake. Please tell me that this person will love me. Please tell me that I'm choosing right this time. Please tell me that the fact that I feel like this means something. That's what we want when we say soulmate. And here's the difficulty. As I said, it might be a soulmate, and you might choose correctly, and the lessons that come from that may not be happily ever after, because relationships are always work, and that's fine. That's okay. It might be a twin flame, and you two might just sort of burn each other out, or meet and even marry, and then in weeks have to push apart. Is there one right one? But there's like 7 billion people on the planet. I don't think there's one right one. I think there's a right one for now. There's a right one for where your soul is and where their soul is. And I want you to look at that just a little bit deeper. I want you to hear this message, while you also might be asking me a question. Though, because I decided to talk about soulmates, it's quite possible that this is what many of you wanted to know. So, like I said, it is possible that you find a soulmate for a time. How do we not find a soulmate? And that's probably the answer I always want to give. We look on the outside. Yeah, there's got to be chemistry. Trust me. I have a Scorpio rising. There's got to be chemistry. But the outside isn't what lasts. It isn't where soulmates reside. Soulmates lie inside in our souls. There is I tried to find the origin of the story, and I couldn't, and I'm sorry. I hate it when there's like an old Yiddish story that I know I've heard, and then I can never ever find it again. If you're out there and you're a Yiddishkeit and you know the story, please message me on the Facebook site or something and tell me you heard this story. It is of a young woman and a young man who were brought together by a matchmaker, and she said, this is Beshert, and in Hebrew and in Yiddish, Beshert, it actually does not mean soulmate. It means at God's will. So lots of things can be Beshert, right? The fact that I didn't get on an airplane can be Beshert. The fact that I got off the freeway before a wreck can be Beshert. But we have a tendency to use it because God's a matchmaker with God, with matches, excuse me. And so I'm going to tell this story, and then I'm going to answer the person who just texted me. And can you make sure you just put your first name in? And I'll finish the story. I'm going to do the reading for the person who just texted me. So the woman is lovely and beautiful and young, and the man not so much, not quite so handsome. And in fact, in the story I heard, he had a slight hunchback. And the young woman said to the matchmaker, "What are you thinking? I'm lovely, I'm beautiful, like, what did you bring me?" And she said, the matchmaker, an old woman, said, "Just go talk to him, just go talk to him." And she did, and she realized that she loved the sound of his voice, and that she loved how he joked, and she really started to like him. But the hunchback was getting to her. And he said to her, "I have to tell you a story. It's the one thing that I remembered when I woke up. When I was born, when my soul awoke on this planet." He said, "When you and I were standing before God and being matched, God said that part of your journey would be to have a hunchback, to be a woman who wasn't so finely beautiful, but that it would be okay because I would recognize you and love your soul." And I turned to Hashem, I turned to her and said, please let me have the hunchback. Let me have the wound. Let me be less attractive. And let her be beautiful, so her life will be easier. It's an old Yiddish story. And she realized, this young, beautiful woman, that his soul was so shining beautiful that she could no longer see his hunchback. She could no longer see what she perceived as ugliness. Okay, if you've heard that story, then please, in Facebook, direct message me or something and tell me where that story comes from, because I know I heard it, and I heard it at the Yiddish table that I grew up in. Okay, so Malinka, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and you would like a reading. Constantly torn between where to live. Oh, so many people are like that. You've lived all over the U.S., wanting to settle, but you can't get an answer. Okay, you've narrowed it down to a couple places. Hard to commit. How do you get clear? Okay, great, that's a great question. How do you get clear on the best situation for long term? This is really odd. Your guy just grabbed my hand, my right hand, and is sort of pulling me to the right. What I'd love to have you do is you listen to me and sort of sit down in one place and get oriented north, south, east, and west, or at least where your right hand is pointing. So just settle as you're listening to my voice, and the guides are spinning me around, which is very annoying. Okay, and again, taking my hand and drawing me to the right. Now my right, in my way of thinking, is well, I want to say east, but what they're telling me is that's not actually right. That there's some reason. Oh, I get it. Okay, all right. So you're being drawn in two different directions, and there's a reason for that. It is that there's a place your soul wants you to go, and there's a place where you think you can make money. So you're having a dance between a love of land, a place your heart opens up, and a place where, and you're probably right, you can be financially successful. And I have to tell you, I have this battle too. There's places my heart opens up. What they're saying, and if you're not, and just so you know, I picked up my pure black, lovely, heavy leaded crystal ball. What they're saying is that you as a person spiritually have a foot in two worlds, which is what we say when someone's a shaman. When somebody has a magical essence and is always connected to the physical and always connected to the metaphysical or the spiritual. Let me know if this is making sense to you through text. Because of that, it is often hard to settle. What they're saying is that what you will end up doing is settling in the place where you feel like you can build security and foundation, but travel often to the place where your soul, where your heart opens. And we all have those places. If you've listened to this show enough, you know that the hardest thing for me right now is I can't go to the ocean. Colorado's lovely, but my heart, my soul is at the ocean. Even though I settled here, I have to go there. And so what they're saying right now is to get to the place where you feel safety, security, that you can let go of the past that blocked you, and you know you can be secure. It might be a financial security thing. And then remember that your soul longs for another place, and you will have to journey there occasionally. I don't know what your sign is, but it's not unusual for some of us, any of the air signs and some of the fire signs, to have that I have no earth in my chart, as I said, and that the earth signs settle, they plant, they know how to do that. It is the air and the fire signs that have that gypsy element to them. So that's the guidance they're giving you. How can you know? They're saying that because you, all right, this is an interesting thing. Often we do not hear the messages we're being sent because we're not asking, right? So imagine you have very polite spirit guides. Just between us, like 100,000 of you and me, I do not have very polite spirit guides. Well, let's say you do. They will wait for you to ask, to say, guide me. And so we want messages, but we're not asking the right question. We're not asking for the guidance. We're not asking to be shown, right? Sometimes we're asking them to do, and they don't do. They guide, they advise, they help, they support. So Malinka, what they're wanting you to do is, in this next week, is to ask and to look around you at the symbols and the signs that show up. And what they're saying to me is within the next 4 days, you're going to actually have a sense of security around the answer. Mercury, for all of you out there, we have a number of planets retrograde. I actually have today's chart, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 planets retrograde, and Mercury is going to go retrograde tomorrow. Malinka, tell me if any of that makes sense to you, please, in the text. That would be really helpful for me. A smiley face or a backup question. Mercury is going to go retrograde. Many people think they should not make decisions in a retrograde, but if there's something you've been searching for or working on for a long time, often, quite often, the answer comes in a retrograde. Why? Because we slow down. We stop pushing. We stop demanding. And we start paying attention. We go inward. I mean, that's sort of magical, isn't it? And it's a message, as a double Aquarius, I always have to listen to for myself. I have to slow down. I have to pay attention. I have to be present. I have to listen. And I have to ask. And the more I ask, the more powerful the messages are. Remember, you're asking for guidance, for information, but not necessarily the solution. Malinka, let me know if that makes sense to you. Oh, it does make sense to you. That makes me feel so very good. I get it. You're torn between places you love and places that make money. Welcome to so many women's lives. And I finally decided live here and travel there, right? So I hope that works for you. Keep me posted. I really would love to know how you're doing. And again, how do you do that? How do you keep me posted? You go to elisarobin.com. You go to my website. You'll find my email there. You can message me. You'll find my blog. You'll let me know if you like my writing. You will see my packages and how you can work with me at a deeper level with using your astrological chart and, yes, channeling. Also, you will go to kuhsdenver.com, which is where you are, in case you didn't know. And you can find me on that Facebook site. You can find me on the Dr. Elisa Show Facebook site. I'm so easy to find. It's amazing. But keep me posted. Honestly, when I do a reading like this for someone, I so want to know that they're okay. I am going to just refresh my Facebook pages here, which at some point I finally figured out if you don't refresh them, you don't get updated messages. So let me do that. And we will get back to chatting about soulmates. Okay. So again, if you know that story at all, of that story I told of the man, right, of that couple, let me know. I'd love to know where that story came from. Okay, there we go. Updated the sites. What else about soulmates? So what happens often, and I know you've heard me on my other show talk about online dating, is we want love at first sight. Oh, who doesn't want that? It's romantic. Though what's so funny to me is so many people during the holiday season will get all the Hallmark movies, and there's no love at first sight in any of those. So we're, on some level, we have the message of we want love at first sight. You know, you recognize your soulmate. And on the other one, we kind of like these movies that show us that maybe you don't know them at first. But we want that assurance. We want something beautiful to happen. And that is that soulmate dance. I think as we think about this, though, that the Kabbalah teaches us, again, that souls are attracted to souls, and that when we're on a spiritual journey, when we are working, doing whatever our spiritual work is or our task, we attract different souls to us. So you may have had a soulmate for one part of your journey, and that's wonderful. But that soulmate may not be forever. I have to say, if you've had pets, you may know this. You may know that there was the one dog or the one horse or the one whatever that you had, that was it. They're never going to beat that. And you want them back. And they send you a different one. It's not the same. But that was the dog you needed then. Dogs and cats and horses and whatever, anyone from any of the animal kingdom, they come to us of free will. They come to us with a certain kind of love. And they are for a time. And maybe that's part of their lesson, that they're just for a time. We're great at platonic soulmates. I think we recognize them pretty easily, especially women. We have these deep, deep, abiding friendships that are built on something more than just we work together. These are the women we trust. These are the ones we know will give us straight talk. These are the ones we know will take a risk of maybe hurting us to help us or saying something that's difficult. And they're the ones who have our backs. And if you've heard that rumor that women backstab women, I have to tell you that is less true. That is less true. That's just a lovely way, perhaps, that we have of making women afraid of women. Deep, abiding friendships absolutely exist. And they might be in your family. They might be someone you're related to. So that kind of platonic, that is a relationship that helps us realize that the universe is kind of throwing us a bone, right? Like, this is something you need. Here is someone you need to help you get through. Because I don't know that life was ever supposed to be easy. It isn't a series of tests, but life comes with life, right? Life is just messy. It's just the way it is. And our soul is having a different kind of experience than our physical body and our mind and our emotions. And it might be having exactly the experience it needs. It's those romantic ones that are trickier. They teach us how to love, how to not love. They teach us how to care for someone and when to let go. They teach us how great and breathtaking love can be, and they teach us sometimes to forgive, and they teach us sometimes to walk away. That's a hard lesson. And I think when we have a soulmate relationship that's teaching us to walk away, it's really hard because we feel that we were deceived. You're my soulmate, it's supposed to work. And it's just not necessarily what a soulmate is. And especially, I think, as we grow and as we develop. So a soulmate can be anyone who mirrors us in a certain way. We're drawn to different people. We're drawn to different entities. The last thing that we should expect from a soulmate is them to be exactly like us. Exactly like us. Because there has to be something in there that challenges us, that makes us think a little differently. Maybe they have a different part of them instilled. So, I know people who, sometimes you see this in stars, right? And much like my story, right? Beauty and the Beast is a great example. She's beautiful and he's not quite. And she's trying to learn to be free, and he's trying to remember goodness. And it is together that we remember. And we can take those amazing steps together. But sometimes we need to come from different places for that to happen. Do soulmates have intertwining passion? Yeah, I do believe that if you have a romantic soulmate, clearly my platonic soulmates and we don't have that. We do have passions for the same things. We have passions for hiking and trips and certain kinds of travel and things we're working on, conversations. Romantic soulmates, there has to be a piece of that other kind of passion. Something that is deeply sensual, maybe deeply sexual, maybe, but passionate, that connects us. It sort of has to be there. But it might be a deep love for something. It might be that you're so drawn together over something you both believe in that you can't imagine being without this person. Some of the best love stories are bigger than ourselves because of that love for something else. And how do you know, right? I definitely have had people who said, sex is not that important to me. I want a different kind of soulmate. And that's fine. And a lot of times that will show up in your chart. And that's fine, and that's lovely. There's no one right way to do this. But I will say that for most of us, we have to match there somehow. We have to be aligned in the passion, whatever that is. And that is part of that soulmate journey. There's things I'm never going to be passionate about. I kind of joke that I met so many men who were passionate about golf, and I just told them that, yeah, not me. Just move on down the assembly line, man, because, yeah, that's never happening for me. Not where my passion lies. I've had other people ask me if you would be completely at ease with your soulmate. Maybe. But remember, in that sort of Beauty and the Beast, you may not recognize them at first. It may take a while. And that ease may then come, may show up. So let me know if this is resonating with you. If I've hypnotized you with my voice, that's good too. You can let me know. But I still have time to answer a question in the Facebook site, so the Dr. Elisa Show, or on the text. And thank you for the people who've already texted me with questions. 720-386-0513. 720-386-0513. I still have time to take another caller. So, what do we do? What do we do? How do we get help with this? And I have to tell you that a lot of people will ask me if they can see soulmates in charts. And yes, you can. There are connections almost always involving the symmetries. Let me back up. We can look at the two charts and see where the planets align with each other, where some of them canoodle, they hang out together. We can see where they're planets in a triangle with each other, or a square with each other. And while there is a notion that squares are difficult, squares can also tie us together. Powerful, powerful lessons come from squares. And honestly, sometimes when all we have are triangles in our chart, which are considered easy, there is no growth. We're always fighting against doing it the easy way. So we can run what we call a synastry chart, where we overlay the two charts and we see how they're connected. And we'd be looking for things around the north and south nodes. Perhaps Pluto, perhaps the 7th or 8th house, perhaps the 12th house. We look for those connections. We also can run a chart. We can take those two different birth dates and times and run what we call a composite chart, which is a chart of the relationship, and talk about the nature of the relationship. Now, sometimes that's a lovely thing to do, and sometimes people who are sure they're soulmates look at that chart and say, I don't want that chart. That's not what I had in mind. And again, a soulmate situation does not mean ease of everything. So let that sink in just for a minute. I'd love to hear from you how this might be resonating with you, how the Beauty and the Beast story might be resonating with you. Wonder where you are in terms of soulmate in your life and what that means to you. And again, remember, a soulmate can be a platonic soulmate. It can be a romantic soulmate. Okay, I'm just checking the Facebook site to see if you're chatting with me. Okay. And do you wonder, here's sort of where I wanted to go with this. So I've got just a few minutes left and I want to sort of head in this direction. Love is a hard thing to find sometimes. And when we put a filter between us and love called must be my soulmate, it's even more difficult. There's always someone more attractive. There's always someone funnier. There's always someone more intelligent. There's always someone more aligned with the specific thing you care about. There's always another. But the hunt for soulmates isn't the hunt through Amazon Prime for a special deal. The hunt for a soulmate is not a catalog search. And in fact, when we desire love, when we crave it, that's not the hunt for a soulmate. We draw our soulmates to us when we are living our spiritual life. We draw and seduce love to us when we are living with love. If you're struggling right now and feeling lonely and unloved, I'd like you to go inward. Again, Mercury, we'll have 5 planets retrograde here. Mercury is joining tomorrow. Go inward. Where are you angry? Where are you living with fear and hatred inside of you? Where do you hate yourself? And can you heal that? Can you wash that clean? And can you replace it with self-love? Not narcissism, not egotism, but can you accept that you came here with a pure soul and you are not evil, right? I mean, you weren't a mistake. You're here because you're here, and your soul has the opportunity to live its best life, and you have the chance to shine with that cocoon. And when you do that, you fill your soul, you dance with the light and the dark together, you live from a place of self-love, and you draw love to you. You draw love. And in that seduction of love to you, people call it manifesting. Yeah, I have all that Scorpio in my chart. I call it seduction. In that, what you draw to you is powerful love, even if you don't recognize it at first. Even at first, if it just looks like, yeah, not a fit. Because if it's supposed to be, it will come back. You may chase it away a couple times, but trust me, it will resurface. And especially if it's a soulmate, and sometimes it's just for the resolution of that. Sometimes it's because here's your next person. Here's your next love. Here's the next best thing for you. Well, believe it or not, I have chatted for almost a full hour. I'm so grateful to those of you who asked me questions, and I hope when I'm back, and actually, let me just do this, a couple commercials. I am on next week on Thursday, and I have a guest. We're going to talk about money and the fear of money, and why not to be afraid of money. So if money is one of your concerns or your issues, please tune in. And we're specifically going to be talking on some level about relationships and women and money. So please tune in. And then the week after that is Halloween week, and I will be back with ghost stories, maybe some vampire stories, stories of the unknown and the macabre. Yeah, stories that are meant to scare us just a bit. So please tune in for those. And next time we have the Crystal Ball Hour, please think about texting me a question, messaging me a question, because that's what this show is about. It's about working with you and answering them. Anyway, thank you for listening to the Crystal Ball Hour on KUHS Denver, the stream. Please stay tuned. There is some amazing music the rest of the day. Please find me on elisarobin.com and let me know your thoughts, and let me know how you're doing and how you enjoyed the show. Thank you for joining me. Please have a healthy, safe, joyous, and inspired week.